Welcome to our True Blue Extra. I'm Dave McCann with BYU TV football analyst Blaine Fowler as we kind of set the stage for what we've got coming up with BYU and Notre Dame on Saturday. And then this last week, the Cougars got knocked around a little bit by Oregon State.
Yeah, it was a game that I thought BYU physically matched up okay with, but they had some trouble dealing with the speed of Oregon State on the outside. And, you know, a story that we've revisited over and over in their losses this year, they lost the turnover margin battle, and that's a problem.
Happens in every loss this season.
Against good teams, you can't lose in that category or you lose.
You know, Riley Nelson has 7 interceptions in his last 3 starts. They lost all 3 games.
Yeah, Utah is a game that BYU should have won. Physically, they're better than Utah this year. Boise State is the same story. If they're just even in turnover margin in those 2 games, I'm convinced they have a win.
And then Oregon State, they might have had a chance.
I'm not convinced in Oregon State. Oregon State is a very good football team and deserving of their ranking. But I think if it's even in turnover margin, I think the game's tight down the stretch and they have an opportunity, and it wouldn't have been the kind of score we saw. But certainly, worst case scenario, they're taking care of the football. They're 6-1.
Our Y factor is the kicker. Because the kicking team made a field goal, and they hadn't made one for a long time, and that gets them a helmet sticker. Justin Sorensen taking over all the kicking duties here at the midway point of the season, and he managed to knock in a couple extra points, and 3 of them, in fact, and then kicked a field goal.
Well, and it was nice to see. Bronco said at the beginning of the week that they had made the decision now that Justin was healthy, that they would go with him for all the placements, and that they would have Riley Stevenson do all of the punting. I think that worked out well.
All right, for the game changer, we've got Cody Hoffman, who had a pretty nice day.
Yeah, Cody Hoffman is always going to come and perform. He is just so consistent, the most consistent player on BYU's offense from start to finish this season. And he had another big game. I expect him to play well against Notre Dame. He's a matchup nightmare. Big, strong, physical receiver that's not afraid to go inside. And
chance for him to get some exposure, too, on NBC.
Yep,
and
absolutely. People will know who he is after this week. And so, I mean, a lot of these helmet stickers belong to Cody Hoffman this season. We're going to give him another as our game
For a second there, I thought we were
game.
giving the kicker a sticker, and that would be
the
first of all these stickers.
Well, we have a standing rule that no stickers for kickers.
The last thing we need.
It's no stickers for kickers. It's like kind of a theme.
Yeah. All right. Okay, well, let's give out some grades here at the midterm, so to speak. And we've kind of gone through the position battles, and you've assessed the numbers, and you've given a grade. And let's begin with BYU's offense.
These aren't based on gut feel like we see in the newspaper the next day. I had my TA pull all of the test scores.
Studied.
And we're going to judge them according to how they match up with their peers across the country. There's 120 FBS schools, and this is where BYU ranks. And so if you look at them offensively, they're going to get a C- offensively. Their average rank is 74.5 out of 120 teams. That's in the 38th percentile nationally. And so with that, and we could have maybe even gone D+, but they have done some good things. They have a winning record. We're going to give them a C- on offense. Certainly, BYU should be a top 25 offense.
Brandon Doman's got to figure things out. He's getting a C-. All right, now the defense.
We're going to give the defense an A+. And if you look at the individual ranks and total yards, they're still in the top 5. Rushing yards, they're still number 3 in the country. Passing yards, 24th. That's top 25. Scoring defense, they're still in the top 10. A composite rank of 6, which
so
is
you're grading on the curve.
Yeah, this is the 95th percentile nationally. And when you're in the 95th percentile in anything, you get an A+. And I know that they struggled and gave up 42 points in the Oregon State game, but this is a 12-game season, and we're looking at their whole body of work. And
if you get a drop a test?
If this was a class, sometimes you get to drop your lowest score. And I hope by the end of the year we're just going to drop their Oregon State game, and we're just going to do 11 scores. But even with that Oregon State game, their rankings are good enough that this is an A+ defense.
I'm curious to see how they bounce back.
I think they will bounce back.
All right, special teams, which has been a sore spot.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I had my TA pull my TA had.
Does your wife Brenda pull all the stuff?
Yeah, Brenda was my TA. But when we looked at kick coverage and punt coverage, I was surprised. I thought BYU was doing better than that in terms of punt and kick coverage, but they're 86th in punt coverage in the country. That's compared to the 120 teams that we're talking about. Net punting, they've done a great job. And we've got to give Riley Stevenson credit. He's number 5 in the nation as an individual in punting. So that's a real bright spot. And kick returns, they're in the top 35. So they've done some things well, but overall, They've got to be better in coverage, and the kicking game on field goals, that brought their letter grade down
Well,
significantly.
here comes the worst grade on your list.
Yeah, we decided to do a separate thing called turnover margin. They're 80th in turnovers gained. They're 14th in turnovers lost, and which is, they have 14, which is 94th in the country.
That's not good.
And then their overall turnover margin is 97th.
Now, how is it you can be so good in all those other defensive categories, but you're 97th in turnover margin?
And turnover margin is a combination of both offense and defense. And so you've got to get some takeaways. I've been surprised with the speed of this defense and how many tackles for loss they have. I'm surprised they haven't created more turnovers, but it's also a function of your offense giving the football away. And BYU's done that a bunch in their big games. And so that combination, that's why we didn't give it to the special teams, the offense, or the defense. That's a combination stat.
Yeah.
And that's the one that has hurt them the most. I believe if they were in the top 25 in the country in turnover margin, that this would be a 6-1 team right now. I think it's the single biggest factor in their losses this season.
If they can get pressure on Notre Dame's quarterback, can they do enough to disrupt to win the game Saturday?
They need to force turnovers. Notre Dame's defense is outstanding. And BYU's going to find it tough sledding. They need to take care of the football. They need to work and play great defense and change field position through the punting game, because Riley Stevenson's a very good punter, and take advantage of any short fields they have. If they turn it over, they're doomed. If they can force a couple of turnovers, the defense is good enough that they could win this game in the end. They're good enough to match up physically with Notre Dame. They've just got to take care of that football.
Boy, Notre Dame has Oklahoma on the road the following week. It's a perfect time to sneak in there.
Yeah.
And punch them in the nose.
It's time to shock the world, right?
Shock the world. We'll see what happens. Hey, tweet your questions at BYU TV Sports and have them featured next week on True Blue Extra. And Blaine might grade those, so make sure they're good questions.
Yeah, I'll have my TA take a look at them.
For BYU TV football analyst Blaine Fowler, I'm Dave McCann. We'll see you at 2:30 Eastern Time on Saturday for Countdown to Kickoff. 3:30 Eastern Time is BYU and Notre Dame ranked 5th in the country. It's as big as it gets.
It's a great opportunity. They've got to play with poise. Play with poise.
See you later.